I'm elevating, but this is coming at a cost. This is costing me something I don't want it to cost me. And that's part of the journey. Sometimes people think that, you know what, since you're going through certain things in life that you look comfortable, you seem comfortable, but you aren't comfortable. Elevation, you're going to have to shed some fat. You're going to have to shed some people. You're going to have to shed some habits, some things you don't like, or some things that you really enjoy. You're going to have to shed them. Elevating is a painful process. To get stronger, it's going to cost you a little pain. It's easy to get weak. Just don't do nothing. Just sit around, let life go by. Nothing happens. Don't do nothing. It'll come to you. You know, weakness. The weakness will come to you. So when we think about elevation, when we think about elevating in life, we think about elevating from all aspects, whether that's spiritually, whether that's financially, whether that's mentally, whether that's physically. Everyone's journey as far as elevation is going to be different. You want a degree? What's it going to cost you? You work a full-time job, you got a family, you got kids, so you're going to have to go to school, at night, online. You're going to, have nights where you're not sleeping 8 hours a night. You may get 4 hours of sleep at night because you're trying to educate and advance yourself. That's part of the discomfort. That's what elevation leads to. That's what it brings. But at the end of that, what does it lead up to? How you able to grow? How your family able to grow? What benefit does it come with, even though it costs you a short-term benefit? Sometimes we think about, I want this, but I'm willing to do this. And sometimes it doesn't equate. Sometimes it don't add up. I've been there. There's a lot of things I want. There's a lot of things I don't have the time to do. There's a lot of things that I want, but I got to put in that effort. And a lot of us, we don't want to put in the effort. We want to do what's easy. Yeah. That's why that's why elevating comes with a little bit of pain, because it ain't easy. Everybody can't do it. Everybody's not willing to do it. What are you willing to do? How are you willing to achieve the things that you want out of life? Are you willing to give this up? Are you willing to give that up? Are you willing to dedicate time and focus to anything in particular so that you can advance, so that it could be a benefit to you, so it could be a benefit to your family? Think about those things. Elevating, being uncomfortable. That right there, in a nutshell, being uncomfortable will make you do things that you normally wouldn't do if you're comfortable. But that's the beauty of being uncomfortable, because when you get too comfortable, man, you begin to let things happen, or you begin to do things that you would normally never do. You're not as sharp as you used to be sharp. You're letting things slide because you're comfortable, you're happy, you are where you think you should be at in life, but you haven't reached the pinnacle of what you can reach in life. And for some of us, we need somebody to just give us a little nudge. Have that accountability person that's like, man, you better than this. You could do more than this. You got more than that in you. But again, some people are just happy and being complacent, happy and being where they are, because they don't have, or they don't want, the challenges that come with it. So as we talk and we discuss about elevating, we're going to talk about it from the educational standpoint, from the financial standpoint, because, from an educational standpoint, you can advance your career. It can give you mobility and notoriety within your career field that you never thought you would be exposed to. From a financial standpoint, you can start exploring and enjoying the certain luxuries of life and certain privileges of life that you never experienced. Some people that might be buying a boat. For some people that might be buying a brand new car. For some people that might be buying a house. Everyone's journey and goal associated with elevating is always going to be different. It's no one size fit all. House, car, truck, whatever the case is, everything is different. Everyone's situation is different. So what are you willing to spend? What are you willing to let it cost you to elevate? Because along the journey, I know people have said it many times, and some people don't digest it, but you're gonna shed fat. That fat being people, that fat being habits. It might be you quit smoking. It might be you quit drinking. It might be you quit going to the bar at night when you get off from a 12-hour shift. You instead you go home. You're doing something at home, whether it's spending time with your family or educating yourself or learning a new curriculum, working towards a degree, whatever that is for you. That's your journey. We go on these different paths and we think, you know what, I like this. I like what this can become, but then the complacency sets in because it's like the plateau effect. For people that go to the gym or they play a sport, you get to a point that you're so comfortable and you're so conditioned for the circumstances that anytime you make any sudden change to that circumstance, that's when you feel it. So if you lift weights, you can lift 225 pounds 15 times. You'll do 5 sets of 5. The minute you do try to do that with 230 and you're able to do it, but when you go home, you're sore. You just gave your body something different that it wasn't used to. So your body is telling you, okay, now I have to advance. Now I have to grow. Now I have to elevate. So the cost of that is going to be some short-term pain, not pain in the sense that you're, immobile, but pain in the sense that this is growth. This is growth happening. You know, a lot of times when we think about it, and we look back at it in hindsight, it's the elevating piece of life is always to grow. It's always pain. It's always shedding fat. Like I said, the fat could be vices. It could be people. And a lot of times people, when you in a situation, you can't see certain things, but there are people around you that are holding you back from reaching your achievements because you don't see that they're draining your energy. They're pulling your energy away from you. I had to, do a lot of self-reflection just in my personal life on where my energy was being diverted to and how was it impacting me? How was it impacting my household? That's a part of growth. So in order for me to elevate, I started shedding fat in places I didn't think I would shed them at. I have no regrets in that realm because it's like God started blessing me in ways that I didn't see. My career started to advance. I started elevating. Now I'm getting exposed to a different level of elevation because my roles have changed career wise. I have more responsibility. I have more obligation. I have more duty. You know, that's part of elevating. You can work with someone who's been on the job at a company for X amount of years, but they're in the same position for X amount of years. They're comfortable. They don't want to grow beyond that. They don't want the responsibility, the obligation, the duty that comes with elevating. And that's cool. Elevating in certain situations isn't for everyone. Everyone don't want to elevate. Everyone is, you get a good job, good benefits, good salary, good pay, whatever the case is. And you're like, I can live like this with this. I don't want to do more. I'm a person that want to do more. So I don't care if I'm making 100,000, 150,000, 200,000 a year. I don't care what I'm making for any company or any job. What can I make for myself? Now, a lot of that mentality come from seeing my grandfather, seeing my father. They worked their jobs, but they had skills outside of work or skills that they gained at work that they utilized outside of work that gave them a monetary benefit on the tail end. You know, I learned a lot of different skill sets from my father. Both my grandfathers were hustlers, not in the narcotic sense of things, hustle, but it was more of, my paternal grandfather. He worked his job. He raised cows, he raised pigs. He had, plenty of fresh fruits and vegetables from his garden that he would plant. He would take a lot of that stuff to work and sell it. He had 9 kids. You know, what he didn't have or what he needed and had to feed his family, all the extra, he would take it to work and sell it. That's hustling. You know, my maternal grandfather, same thing. He would sell stuff. You know, nothing that he stole from no one, nothing illegal, but he sold stuff. They hustle. It was not just the job supports the household. It was the job and whatever they done after work or on the weekend that also contributed and supported the household. So complacency has played a big part in today's society because most people just want to work their job, work their hours, get their pay, go home and live life based upon that. I heard it said years ago, um, my Dr. Claude Anderson, a job is not made to enrich you. It's made to sustain you. Me personally, I don't want to be sustained. I want to be enriched. You know, I want to be enriched. I want to grow beyond what the job sees. No shade to any job or even my current job. I want to grow beyond that. I feel like I'm more valuable growing beyond that. And when I say growing beyond that, I don't necessarily mean, oh, let me quit this job and do whatever full time or start a business and do that full time and God's gonna make a way. Nah, God give you a lot of sense too. You gotta do things in phases. There's seasons. That's why you got 4 seasons in a year, you know. Whatever you do in the winter, you preparing for the spring. You know, that's the journey of life. You gotta be prepared for the season that's coming, not the season that you in. So therefore, if that means stepping outside of your comfort zone, going to do things or learn things that you feel will advance you in your career, do that. If you have a certain skill set right now at this moment, even if it's something that you do on your job, you know, you can be a welder and you have the resources to buy a welding machine at your house and you could do some small fabrication jobs for people and charge them what you charge them and they're willing to pay, guess what? You hustling. You hustling. If you're an electrician on the job and you decide that, hey, I'm gonna do some electrical work on the side when I'm off, you know, when I get off in the evenings or when I get, you know, off for the weekend, you hustling. Same with these guys that do HVAC. You hustling. If you're doing work outside of work, you hustling. And then at the same time, you're building your name, you're building your reputation, you're building a brand if you create one. And if you ever want to take that leap, you already have some sort of recognition in the marketplace. You already have some sort of credibility in the marketplace. Think about it like this, right? It's July, it's August. The heat index is 120 degrees, 115 degrees. It's hot. Your air condition goes out. Most of the people that you Google, most of the companies that you Google and call, gonna tell you it'll be next week, it'll be 2 weeks before I can get a tech to you. You got a couple friends, you got a couple associates, you start calling, texting, whatever the case is, you ask the question, hey man, does anyone know anyone that does HVAC? My air conditioner went out. I really need someone that does HVAC. They give you some numbers, they give you people to call. Now you start calling them. You get one that says, I could be there today, or I could be there first thing in the morning. Because they show up, that adds to their credibility. Because they get your air conditioning working, that adds to their reputation. So if you ever have an HVAC related problem again in your home, who you gonna call? The one that showed up. It's great to go on Google and look at the reviews and you know all that reputable stuff, but there's a lot of people that's working in a space that don't have a business, you know, like a LLC or a corporation of some sort, but they do a lot of side work. They have great craftsmanship, great integrity with whatever they're doing, and they show up. You got a customer for life. There's people right now that, you know, since I moved up here, if I had an issue in my house that's beyond my set, my technical set, I call them because they show up in the clutch. That's where things happen at, in the clutch. There was a point a couple of summers ago where the air condition upstairs in my home went out. It's summer. I'm walking upstairs to go lay down on my bed. It's 8, 9 o'clock at night. We was downstairs watching movies and whatnot, and I feel the heat as soon as I get to like the second tier of the steps, and I'm like, damn, something ain't right. And then I go outside because I do know what to look for in certain circumstances. The fan on the unit was turning. So, all right, the air in the vent was coming out, but it wasn't cold. So I got two problems that I'm aware of in the HVAC world when it comes to air conditioning. Two problems. I either got a capacitor that's burnt up or I got a freon leak. My coolant leak. You know, Made a couple phone calls. Company came out, I think it was maybe 2 days later. Now lucky for us, there was one room upstairs that has a window unit in it. And the temperature at night, because I don't like to be cold when I sleep, was bearable for me to sleep. So I slept in the room that didn't have air conditioning. My family slept in the room that did have air conditioning. You know, like I said, for a night or two that happened, then the company came was like, yeah, your capacitor was burnt up. All right, cool. They took care of that. There was another time where in a different house, the air conditioner went out, same scenario. But when I go outside to check to make sure the fan was turning, there was a tree limb, not super big, but enough to get in between the grating on top of the fan that kept the fan from turning. If the fan ain't turning, it's not gonna cool. So I cut everything off to make sure the power was off before I pull that twig out of that fan. Pulled it out, cut everything back on, put my hand up to the vent. Oh, that air is cold. That's a skill set that I've learned over the years of just watching, because I got an uncle that's in the HVAC business. I've done sheetrock work in the house, and I got an uncle that does sheetrock, so I learned from watching him. My dad is real good with floors. He loves putting down hard. Well, I wouldn't say he loves putting it down, but he has the skill set to put it down. It's one of those situations where I do it if I have to, if the money's right, but I don't go around advertising that I want to do this kind of work full time or do this a lot on the side. But he has that skill set. I learned that from him. So all of that adds to the complacency factor, the elevating factor. What are you doing to get uncomfortable so that you can be super comfortable or be in the position that you want to be in life? For me, that's continuing to grow. For me, that's career changes. That's my career has advanced. I mean, I've been an operator in different industries for 20 plus years. I still do some operating when needed, but I'm more so in the leadership aspect of things now. I get to sit down and talk with the president of the company that I work for. Cool guy, nice guy, personable guy. He's human, you know. Uh, just advancing, elevating. I hope and I encourage everyone to reach that pinnacle in life to a point where it's like, you know what, I'm comfortable here. Let me do something to get uncomfortable so that I can advance. Sometimes we just want to be in that one spot that's so comfortable and so familiar that we don't realize the damage that occurs or how it's hurting you. I encourage you to challenge yourself with certain things. Here recently, I gave myself a challenge. It's been 3 weeks since I've had any alcohol. No beer, no wine, no liquor. I challenge myself. Stop. See how you feel. See how you sleep. See how you think. See how your day goes. I just stop. Now, don't get me wrong. There are instances where I may have a rough night at work. It's a long night at work. I'm dog tired when I get home, and damn if I don't want one, a beer or a drink or whatever. Or it's the weekend and my wife is playing the vinyls, and we got the blinds all open up in the house and the sunlight coming in and everything feeling good. The weather's good. The mood is right. but I stay away from it. You know, I stay away from. I challenge myself, just like I challenge myself when I go to the gym. And I don't feel like going to the gym, but I always end up doing something that shows me why I should go to the gym. Like this morning, I went to the gym. I'm working out. I'm about 300 pounds. I do a few pull ups. I'm like, man, they're getting easier. I did three of them. And it's like, man, I'm a big dude. I'm getting strong. I can tell I'm getting strong. I can tell that the effort that I've been putting in is adding or equating to something because I'm getting stronger. When I could barely do a pull up, now I can do three. That might seem small or comical to some people, but that's huge in my world because I remember there was a time where I couldn't do a push up. There was a time where I couldn't do dips. Now when I go and I'm, on my upper body days, I warm up on the dip machine. I bump 10 of them out, do 3 sets of 10, and then I go to the bench and handle what I need to handle. Everyone's situation is different. It's you can learn a lot from the different areas of exposure that you're in, just like, the gym, for example. You see someone that's working out and they're trying to get stronger. They pushing themselves. They ask you for some assistance. Hey, man, can I get a spot? Whatever the case is, spot them. That's motivation for them. They're going to keep pushing. In my mind, I don't want anything to beat me. That bar ain't going to beat me. Whatever's on that bar ain't going to beat me. That's my mentality. It's me against it. And my attitude is win. Not at all costs, not at a loss, but win. And when I say not at a loss, I mean I don't want to like physically hurt myself just to gain. But I do want to show myself that it's possible. That's having a strong mindset, your mind being, in tune with what your body is, getting ready to be prepared for or getting ready to do. That's part of the journey. Elevate brings on success. It brings on different aspects of life that you wish for, you hope for. You're very happy. And sometimes you gotta get back in the mud a little bit just to remind yourself of where you come from. That's the beauty of life, man. There's a lot of beauty and pain just in the journey of life. And if we really sit back and digest everything from a mental aspect, we'll be so much better off. We'll be grateful. Give gratitude. When you wake up in the morning, give gratitude. I pray to God. I thank God. You're not, a Christian or you don't pray to God and thank God. Thank whoever you pray to and whatnot. But I give gratitude. Thank you for this. Thank you for that. Give that gratitude. Extend it. Be nice, to people, help people when they seem like they're in need. I mean, I get it. There's a lot of times where you have a lot of people standing on corners holding a sign that don't necessarily need the money. They hustling. But there's a lot of people out there that ain't hustling and they really need the assistance. It might not be money. It might just be food. It might just be water. But they play on your emotions. The ones that are taking advantage of the situations, they play on your emotions to get you to react. Sometimes in life, you got to be accountable for the decisions you made. If you've done something to get you messed up, you got to get yourself out of that. Because if you keep getting a bailout, you'll never adjust. You'll never learn the lesson that comes with it. It's just like in the business world. I remember years ago, I believe it was President Obama gave Ford and Chrysler and I think Dodge like these massive bailouts. The economy was doing bad. Don't get me wrong. The economy was horrible, but they got these massive bailouts. And in my mind, even back then, I'm opening up to a new space where I'm starting to analyze and look at things totally different. Like, why are these corporations getting the bailout? The people, the citizens, they really control the economy. They boost the economy. These corporations are getting the bailouts to sell products to the consumer, but the consumer didn't get a bailout. I think during the pandemic, when President Trump extended those COVID money, the stipends, and everyone got it in some form or fashion, whether it was from work or you got the stimulus checks. Them stimulus checks boosted the economy. It hurt the economy more than it benefited it, because now that everyone's getting this extra money from the government, prices on things shot up. Businesses are taking advantage of the circumstances. And I get it. It's business, supply and demand. The crazy thing is the supply was up, the demand was up, the price was up. Things were elevating. It wasn't all necessarily good, but they were elevating, and now you look back at it, once the checks stopped, the prices are still inflated. You had, many stories and situations of people buying vehicles that was, $20,000, $30,000 over, the real value. And now they're trying to get from up under it, but it's still based on the value from the pandemic. So you got a $60,000 vehicle that you bought during the pandemic that before the pandemic is worth 40,000. You go to trade it in, they're like, hey, we only gonna give you 20 something thousand or 30,000 for it. You're in the hole, negative 30,000. You have to have strong credit and a damn good income and a low debt to income ratio just in order to get a personal loan to offset that, because it ain't backed by an asset. That's the power of, just being financially literate. You have to have a strong credit, a damn good income, and a low debt to income ratio to offset that negative debt associated with something, because it won't be backed by an asset. Houses are assets, cars aren't. On your journey, as you're elevating, you want each house to be a step up. I use me as an example. The first home I bought was $190,000. Nice home, and the prices of real estate is totally different where I'm from versus where I'm at now. But for context purposes, 190,000, 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath house. Second house we bought, 4 bedrooms, 3.5 bathrooms. That was a step up, more square footage. Third house, current house, 6 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. Step up. Each step was a step up. I pray and hope that everyone gets to experience those steps, that journey, elevating, because each step up comes with a different level of responsibility. Mortgages are different with each step. Totally different. So like I said earlier, with the stimulus checks from COVID, the economy got overinflated. Supply was up, demand was up, price was up. Now we're coming out of that, still coming out of that, but we're still dealing with the costs associated with it, because it also had a trickle down effect. Like the insurance companies, you got a vehicle. If you bought a vehicle after the pandemic, that was say 60,000, but before the pandemic, it was 40,000. You go to put insurance on it, the bank is looking at the new assessed value and saying, oh, not the bank, the insurance company, and they're saying, okay, this vehicle was $60,000 or is 60,000 or worth 60,000 because that's what you paid for it. You don't have enough insurance. So the insurance prices start going up, even on like just used vehicles in general. Vehicles that normally would be insured for, I don't know, $60 a month. Now it's $100 a month for the same vehicle, because the thing is, the price went up, the value increased, because even though the money was there from the stimulus, in the automotive world, the demand was high, even though a lot of people wasn't, going to the job. A lot of people was working from home. The demand was high and the supply was low in the automotive world, so the price shot up. Now, they can't get them off of the lots, and they still wanting these substantial increased prices, on these vehicles. So if you bought before the pandemic, you did good. If you buy after the pandemic, you understand what I'm saying, because like I bought a truck after the pandemic, and before the pandemic, that same truck would probably be 25,000 all day. It's 34. Yeah, I'm cool with it because it's what I needed and what I wanted for the time, and just wanted something new, newer, and I can travel a little more versus my other truck, which I can travel in that too, but it's gonna cost me a lot more. It's a bigger truck. Um, so I stepped out on that limb, and took a chance, took a risk, and I'm happy with it because it provides a benefit to me. So when we have these discussions and we talk and we get amongst our circle of friends, encourage them to elevate. You got a friend that, works a good job. You don't necessarily know what they make, but they make decent money, but you see them buying a bunch of, frivolous BS stuff. Encourage them to do better. Encourage them, especially the younger ones. If they, I remember working with a young guy. I think he was like 20, 21. And he was talking about buying a house. And I was like, man, you got a good head on your shoulders. Go ahead and get that house now. I mean, the company we was working for at that time, they ain't going nowhere. If they go somewhere, I don't think the country would be here. It was one of the port authorities. And I told him, man, get that house. Get the house that you really want and look into the future and see if you can grow in that house. So if you can stand getting something a little more or a little bigger than what you need right now. So if your family grows, you already have one child. He was on his way to get married. You might have another kid. You have the space for him and not necessarily have to move. Take that route. It's going to cost you now. It's going to be painful now, but you're going to be grateful later on because you made that move prior to versus not making that move and your house still accruing in value. But now you're having to buy what you could have gotten when you bought what you already bought around the same price, maybe a little more, but you can grow with that. I'm more of a visionary and a futuristic person. I don't necessarily want to buy the bare minimum. I don't want to acquire the bare minimum. I want to have more than what I need. So if I ever need it, it's available to me. It's kind of like a pickup truck. Most people don't need a 4-wheel drive truck. But the moment you need a 4-wheel drive truck, you don't have one. So therefore, you're prepared for something just in case. And you kind of want to be like that. I won't say you kind of want to be like that. You want to be like that throughout life, throughout your journey. Anything that you're trying to do as you elevate, always go for more than what you need. Use what you need, knowing you have more available to you. That's a real big specific item right there. Just having it, just knowing you have it and not being worried because you have it. I use the 4-wheel drive as an example because I barely use it. I remember maybe twice in my lifetime where I've ever been in a position, or maybe 3 times where I've ever been in a position where I needed it. But I'm grateful and thankful that it was available to me when I needed it. So as we talk more and discuss more elevating, let's talk about education. A lot of times we'll go to school, high school or graduate that. We'll go to college. The college dropout rate is kind of high. I would encourage people to get trades and skills. Certain degrees don't have real marketplace value. So when you're telling yourself, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to get this degree, I would encourage you to go on Indeed and look for a job with that specific degree and what they're paying. If you're in a city that it costs a lot to live, certain degrees don't apply to you. You don't, I mean, you may have a passion to want to do things, especially when it comes to helping people. And I respect that. But also understand if you're going to spend, 20, 30, 40,000 or better to get a bachelor's degree, in my book, if the degree costs 40,000, 50,000, 60,000, you should come out making 80% of what it costs you to get that degree first year. I repeat that. If a degree, whatever that degree costs you, you should come out making 80% of what it costs you to get that degree first year. So to make the numbers super easy, so you can understand what I'm trying to explain, if you go to a college and you spend $100,000 on college education because you decide to go to this prestigious school, get this prestigious education, that degree from that institution carries a little more weight than, say, a community college. I'm not saying the community college education is of lesser value, or the state college's education is of lesser value, but what did it cost you to go to this state college? What did it cost you to go to this private institution? And in this example, we're focusing on the private institution. If that was 100,000, you need to come out making 80,000 first year. Anything else less than that, that would be a bad investment. If you go to a school and you spend 40,000 or 50,000, and you come out with a career that starts at 30,000, that was a bad investment. Now, are the skills, or is that degree and what you've learned acquiring that degree, do you have a lot of transferable skills to where you can pivot into another industry that, say, has a different pay scale? I would encourage you to do that. I've met a lot of people that the amount of money they have in college debt versus what they make makes no mathematical sense to me. I can't stomach, for me personally, spending a ton of money on something or for something where the return ain't great. A house, for an example, you don't want to buy a home that's going down in value unless it provides a benefit to you and you take care of it and keep it up, that you could offset the depreciation because you're able to stack money. That's my principle. So, like, you want things that you spend money on, especially when you spend a lot of money on, to go up in value. You don't want it to go down in value. Again, it's a bad investment. Bad investment. College education right now, in my opinion, is astronomically high. It's astronomically high for a degree that doesn't pay what the college education is giving you. But again, I say if you go to certain institutions, those degrees should carry different weight. If you get a business degree from Harvard, you should be making six figures first year. If you go to a state college that doesn't cost as much, it'd be a different story. Maybe 50, 60,000. That's not necessarily a bad investment. But where you choose to be educated at has marketplace value. Your degree has another layer of marketplace value. You and your character and how you say yourself, that got marketplace value. All of this ties back into elevating, being uncomfortable. Elevation brings discomfort. So do you want to stay home, close to home, go to a college, get a bachelor's, or do you want to go off? Do you want to utilize the military? Give them a term. I don't know what it is now, 3, 4 years. Come out, you got a GI Bill, utilize that to get your education for free and go on your merry way. What did it cost you? What's the discomfort there? The 3, 4 years you gave up. But what did you learn in those 3, 4 years? Because, they do tests to see what your skill sets are. And, I think it's called an AVAB test, to see what your skill sets are and where they can place you at. And let's be real, the dumb people, they end up on the front line. Smart people, they end up in different positions. That's just the way of the land. That's the way things are across the board, no matter what industry you're in. Labor intensive jobs are for uneducated people, people with cloudy backgrounds. There's costs associated with certain things. That's one of them. If you're a smart person, you're an intelligent person, you have some wherewithal about yourself, that don't apply to you. So therefore, when you're elevating and you're moving through different channels in life, you're able to elevate, be this, be uncomfortable, but also be able to grow. A lot of that's attainable. A lot of it we don't see. A lot of it we feel more than we see it. But at the end of the day, keep pushing, keep striving. You want certain things that you deal with to have a positive outcome on the tail end. That back end benefit is always going to be great if you are prepared on the front end. You know, everything. So as we keep diving and getting into this, I don't know how often I start doing this, but this is part of me elevating. This is part of me, being uncomfortable. This is part of me giving myself this level of discomfort to speak on things that's going through my mind, things that's in my head, things I want to talk about, things that I think people are gain from. Elevating with discomfort. Elevation brings discomfort. If you want to be comfortable, don't be upset if you're in a place and you watch everybody pass you by, or you're unable to stay in the same realm as your associates, as your friends. You got to push yourself. You got to want it for yourself. You got to want it for yourself more than somebody wants it for you. Because if you don't want it, it's going to be hard to achieve it. I can want it for you, but I want it for you. You don't want it for yourself. So therefore, no matter what I say, you're still going to do what you're intending to do. That's part of life. But from a place of love, I continue to push you. I won't give up on somebody when I can see that they're not reaching their potential, just like I have people that haven't given up on me because they know I'm not maximizing my full potential. Now that they see, okay, he's doing this, he's doing that, he's starting to go, all right, he ain't in the right spot yet. Let's keep nudging him. Let's keep nudging him. My best friend told me a long time ago, years ago, he said, you the kind of person, you'll walk to the cliff, but somebody else gonna have to push you. You ain't going over by choice. I couldn't disagree with him more. No need for me to disagree. You telling the truth. I'll go to the cliff each time and I stand there, but I won't take that leap. Sometimes certain situations, if they come or they present themselves to you, there's nobody there to push you. You're gonna have to do it yourself. And that goes to that mental discipline to want things for yourself. It's not necessarily a self-esteem issue. It's more of you got to want these things. You got to want to achieve these things because a lot of times there ain't nobody behind you ready to push you so you could do what it is that you think you want to do or you're wanting to do. A lot of times that journey is going to be by yourself. The biggest battle you face is the one you look at in the mirror when you wash your face and brush your teeth every morning. That battle is right there in the mirror. That pain, that denial, that discomfort, all of that's right there looking at you. Now, how you react to it, that's different. How you respond to it, that's different. Everyone's situation is different. Many variables. But I want everyone that's wanting to grow and willing to grow to grow. Get the things that you want out of life. Get the experiences that you never saw for yourself. Get them out of life. Whether that's traveling out the country or going overseas for a week, 2 weeks, a month. Whether that's not working, having a business that's sustainable and taking care of your livelihood and your family, whatever that is for you, keep seeking it. Because the minute you stop seeking it, it start to slowly pull away from you. It's part of like manifestation. Speak on the things that you want and speak on them from a positive aspect. Because as long as you want them, you'll attract them just by speaking them into existence. Your brain, your mind, your thoughts, they're very powerful. You want a new car? Think, hey, I want a new car. You want a certain kind of car? I want that kind of car. It might not come to you tomorrow, but it eventually attract itself to you. That's with everything. Everything in life. You want this, you want that. You gotta attract it to you. You want elevation, you gotta attract that elevation to you. If that means going to college, if that means going to trade school, if that means joining the military, that means working, a merchant marine type job where you're making a lot of money and you have a plan of action. That's what it is. But you have to be focused on it. You have to want it for yourself. Mama may want it for you, daddy may want it for you, your siblings may want it for you, but if you don't want it for yourself, it don't matter. But when you see the joy that it brings to people closest to you, especially if you're married and you have children of your own, that's priceless. That right there is priceless. Right now, the way I work, if I could work differently, I would. Right? It's giving me a level of discomfort. But what it does allow me to do is I get to take my son to school every morning. I get to pick him up every evening. I didn't have that growing up. I'm home in the day. When my oldest son gets home from school, I'm here. Even if he don't get to school or miss the bus, I'm not even mad with him because I take him. Like I'm available outside of the paycheck. I'm available outside of discipline. I'm available. I didn't have that level of availability. So a lot of times when, we're raising our children and having our families, we look at the family we come from and how we was raised and how that impacted us. And, we'd say, I don't want my kids to experience this. I don't want my wife to experience that. I want to be different in this realm of things. And that's cool. That's understandable. I have no issues with whatever that is for you and how it applies. What it does do is it opens up different scenarios for you, that because you want different things for your family, your kids, their life, their upbringing is going to be different and it's going to bring a different joy to you, even though you may look at them and say, dang, y'all ain't meeting y'all full potential. But that's part of the journey. I don't expect none of my kids to be who I am or think like I am or think like I think. I expect them to be who they are and show me who they are. So it's like when you meet a stranger, right? And y'all start talking and y'all having a conversation. For most people, early in that conversation, you're already gauging what kind of person this is, character wise. If they're a decent person, they got good character, you can say, okay, well, I can open up a little bit and we can bounce ideas and have a good dialogue. But if you hear a person that's looking for the gain, and when I say looking for the gain, it's a person that's just constantly wanting to hear what you say and how it benefits them, that's the kind of person you want to distance yourself from. You know, those are the leeches. They see what you got going on, see the momentum you have. Let me attach myself to this guy. So if I could ride to a certain distance with him, I'm gonna be all right. Or if I could ride a certain distance with her, I'm gonna be all right. Because even if I get thrown off or I got to jump off, I still landed in a better spot than I was. And there are a lot of people out there that's like that. They will latch on to you and ride that wave. And it's cool. As long as you see it, you understand it, it's cool. Because in my discomfort, in my elevation, everybody ain't gonna go for the full ride. And where you land ain't gonna be where I land. But along that journey, that discomfort that was there, I learned from it. It got a cost. Everything has a cost. How you move about it and how you think about it, that plays a really big part. So I'm happy just thinking about life, the journey, the blessings, all the obstacles, all the variables, everything that I've experienced or everything that I went through. I sit back, I reflect, like, how did this impact you? What did you learn from it? And it's beautiful once you recognize it for what it is, or you see people for who they are. You know, in the Bible it says, you know the tree for the fruit it bears. That applies to people too. That applies to people too. Some people ain't gonna bear fruit. Some people ain't gonna stand. Hell, that's what it is. The more we open our minds up, open our eyes up, and really look at people for who they are, what they present, the better life will be in the future as we travel it, because we can see that and we, distance ourselves from it. You, if you go to a meeting, a convention, or just, a get together, some sort of event, you're gonna see a lot of people there they wanting to either get close, they wanting to know people. The bulk of them is trying to say something. And one thing I can't stand personally is being sold. If I didn't solicit it. Now, if I solicit it, that's totally different. I expect to be sold if I solicited something. But if I'm meeting people and they're constantly trying to sell me, I distance myself from them. No matter who you are. If you're trying to sell me on an idea, if you're trying to sell me on a business, if you're trying to sell me on a service, and it has a monetary value attached to it for you, or a monetary benefit attached to it for you, I distance myself. I didn't solicit that. Like, I solicit a genuine friendship, a genuine business relationship, whatever the case is, but I didn't solicit the fact that I'm going to constantly be sold on why I should spend my money on this, or why I should buy this, or why this is going to help me, and how this is going to help me, and what does it cost. You know, you go in different neighborhoods and you'll see some, or even in businesses, when you walk through the door, you'll see signs that say no solicitation. That's there to keep the salespeople away. Now, sales is, one of the biggest industries in this country. It drives everything because we're all buying something, but we don't want to constantly be sold. Just like when you look at television, whatever program you're watching, whatever channel you're watching, at some point there's a commercial. Commercial is selling you something, whether it's something you're buying, whether it's an idea that you're buying, whether it's donating to a cause, you're being sold something constantly, over and over and over. When you look back at that and you bring it back full circle, how are you elevating? What discomfort is it bringing you? If I sit there and look at the commercials on TV, especially like the ones with, the animals or the people that need to be fed or donate to this charity, I want to help everybody. I want everybody to be well fed. I want the animals to not be harmed, you know, but I don't want to be sold all the time. The pharmaceutical commercials, I'm not even gonna scratch the surface with that one, because there's a lot of stuff that, I'll sit with my youngest kid and he's watching television and there'll be certain commercials that come on and I'm like, why is this even allowed to be aired doing a kids program. What? That's the program. Television program. That's the program. So I mean, just everything, man. You gotta open your eyes to everything as a whole, every situation as a whole, everything that you're dealing with as a whole. Analyze it, reflect on it. How you gonna grow past it? How you gonna grow with it? If you gotta grow with it, how you gonna grow with it? How you gonna get past it? Sometimes it's easier said than done. I say a lot of times it's easier said than done, but for the most part, you won't regret doing what needs to be done. You just regret the process and doing what needs to be done because the level of discomfort or pain that it brings you, the level of discomfort that it brings you is just, I won't say it's unbearable. It's just different. You're not used to it. It's no different than right now if you get outside and put on some tennis shoes and you go jog for 30 seconds and you hadn't jogged in years. Your physical reaction to it is going to be so different because you're not used to it. You're going to have this, level of discomfort. You're going to be sore. But what does it do for you? From a physical standpoint, what does it do for your body? It's good to sweat. It's good to work out. Some people don't see the benefit in it, and to a degree, certain things, that applies. For me personally, I'm not a person that'll do cardio and run. It's like I gotta have a reason to run. There ain't too much things I've experienced in life that I had to run from, but I'll walk for miles. No issue. I'll walk for miles, I'll speed walk. But just to sit there and run without, without fleeing from something, it just doesn't compute well in my mind. But like the people that run these marathons and these triathlons, like they got mental strength beyond this world in my book because they're able to tell themselves this is what we're doing and they do it. I just don't see the benefit in that. Now I do understand and see the benefit in walking. Like I said, I walk miles. But it's just, the journey of life, elevating, going through different motions, different circles, different business relationships, dealing with different people from all different, backgrounds. How does that impact you? How are you elevating beyond it? And it's always good to have someone with some clarity just to talk, just to get those ideas and expressions out of your head and talk, and to make sure you're not crazy, you know so you're accountable for your actions or lack of, whatever the case is. But you gotta stay focused. You gotta stay steadfast on what you're trying to achieve, and understand that it is going to be uncomfortable. In order to grow, there comes a little bit of pain. You know, every loss, there's a lesson built in. There's a benefit, something you learn from that's built in. You know, how do you grow from that point? Do you sit in it and soak in it? Or do you grow beyond it? I would like to grow beyond it. I would like for everyone that's listening to grow beyond it. I want you to sit there and soak in a situation, especially if you can't control it. If you have no control over a situation, you can't control the outcome of a situation. You can't dictate the path of a situation. Don't be so focused on you in that situation. Remove yourself from it. Look at it as though you're a spectator and move accordingly. That'll be the biggest benefit you have to yourself. It'll add so much value to yourself. The journey of life. I appreciate y'all checking in with me. I appreciate y'all listening. As I continue to grow, I would hope that you continue to grow with me. I hope that, we can continue to have these conversations and bounce things off of each other, and go through different ideas and keep this podcast growing. Like I said, I want it to be therapeutic. I want people to get something from it, learn something from it, be of a benefit, be of service to people. I'm not trying to sell anybody anything. I'm not this right here. I'm not charging anybody for it. I don't have any any ads or anything like that. Now in the future, yeah, I hope to have certain things like that, but it's going to be more beneficial to those that's listening than it is to my pockets. Like my purpose in doing this is just to get it out there, just to talk, just to have discussions of things that's going through my head and see how it applies and take that and apply it to your life. You know, like the last episode, I touched on The Godfather in that movie and how you can learn so much from it. And there's a lot of movies you can learn a lot from. There's a lot of television shows you can learn a lot from. There's a lot of television series you can learn a lot from. So, I mean, if you want to analyze, look at The Godfather parts 1, 2, and 3. And if you want to compound that with, say, there's a show on Netflix called The Peaky Blinders, you'll see the total opposite, of having all the pressure, not having the discipline, being wild, and what it costs you, how much it costs you, and who it costs you. Discipline or lack of. We all want money. They both had it. They both got it, but some of it costs the other guy more than it costs the other guy. That's life. That's part of it. So what are you willing to spend? How much is something worth to you? What's the value of something to you? So again, as we continue to have these moments and have this discussion, I already feel myself adjusting well and adjusting properly and getting better and getting these reps in and speaking on what I'm speaking on and hoping that it's encouraging and has the potential to help someone grow and seek knowledge and books. Check out books. The latest book that I've been going through is by Patrick Bet David. Choose Your Enemies Wisely. That's a damn good book. You know, that's a damn good book. Keeps me engaged. I like what's being said. I like the discussion. I like what's being written. Um, yeah, just be focused on everything, man, and we'll get there. You and I together. It's a journey. It's a path. The journey of life is painful at times, but it's also beautiful because the grass I stand on now wasn't the grass I stood on 10 years ago when I bought my first house. It's different. I like it more. And that's what life gives you. When you do certain things in a certain manner, it gives you more. When you work a certain way, when you spend a certain way, when you save a certain way, it gives you more. The brutal, honest truth is with more responsibility, is more potential to risk it because you have that. So not everyone's fit to deal with a lot of responsibility. Not everyone's fit to deal with a lot of growth because sometimes it'll get to you. Your ego will start tripping. You'll start behaving in ways you never behaved before. You'll start indulging in things you never entertained before. It really tests your character, your judgment, where you are mentally. I just want to see everybody succeed. I want everybody to win. If you want it for yourself, whatever that is, I want you to win at it. Be steadfast, hold it, keep it in the road. And I'm gonna end this episode and we're gonna get together for another one and we're gonna continue to build and we're gonna continue to add layers to this foundation. And once that structure is built, it's gonna be rock solid. And we're gonna continue to have these discussions. And I'm gonna continue to talk in this microphone. I appreciate y'all. Thank you. Y'all have a good day.